60 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
You have 60 seconds to comply. This is minute 16. Part man,
Part machine.
all pod.
This minute begins with Murphy loading his guns and ends with Bobby about to find out whether or not he can fly.
That is... I don't have many notes for this minute particularly, but the one note I do have is, can you fly, Bobby?
I love that.
We didn't really speak that much about the glorious that is Kurtwood Smith in previous minutes, so I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of talk about him and the gang at this time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're only 2 minutes into his appearances, but yeah, trust me, there's going to be a lot of Boddicker stealing some scenery.
We did kind of deliberately leave off from last minute talking about this because we were basking in the wholesomeness of Murphy and Lewis.
Yeah.
And now we can bask in the unwholesomeness of the Boddicker gang.
Hell yeah. One of them is the dad from Twin Peaks. That's the only guy I recognize.
The dad from Twin... Okay, so I've only ever watched maybe like one episode of Twin Peaks, and I could not get into it. So which one's the dad from Twin Peaks?
He's one who goes, where'd they go?
Was he Emil?
No.
Hang on.
He's in the back of the van.
So I do have IMDb... Oh! He's, Leyland Palmer?
Yeah, that's right.
So that actor is an actor by the name of Ray Wise. I really love this actor. He's been in tons of really cool stuff. He plays Leon Nash in RoboCop. He's done a ton of different work. He was the devil in one of my favorite series from, 10 or so years ago called Reaper. It was about a guy who he becomes like the devil's bounty hunter, clean his slate type of thing, and it was comedy. It was pretty fun. It went from 2007 to 2009. He's done a ton of different stuff, including some tiny little thing that I'm trying to vamp while I'm scrolling and find again called Star Trek.
Well, shit. That's exactly what I was hoping to spare you from.
Yeah, I was going to say, we found a Star Trek reference. Star Trek Captain Pike from 2016. Is this a fan-made thing, or...?
It is a fan-made thing as far as I can tell. However, I'm trying to find these other Star Trek appearances, and I can't seem to see on the IMDb. He was also in Voyager. I should have checked my notes from last weekend, and he was also in TNG.
And he was in Agent Carter, so there you go. There is a Marvel reference as well.
Yeah. I don't think I've got a Marvel drop yet. I've not seen the Voyager episode, but the episode he's in on TNG is called Who Watches the Watchers. And it's the one where it's the proto-Vulcan culture that believes that Picard's a god. That's a great episode, by the way. I sincerely recommend you check it out.
I also found something called Tom Holland's Twisted Tales. And it's from 2014. I'm like, well, was Baby Spider-Man even around? No, so this is a different Tom Holland, but still, that's amusing to me.
Oh, I think Tom Holland was probably around, but he wasn't the Tom Holland at that point. He was a proto-Tom Holland.
Yeah. So common name.
I was waiting to get the Leon to Star Trek drop in there. But you brought it up.
Yep.
I was going to gush about Kurtwood Smith first. I mean, he was also in Star Trek, but we've already established that.
Yes.
He was the president of the Federation in Star Trek 3 and 4? 4 and 5?
Frequently
4, 5,
threatened
6?
to shove his foot up Eric Foreman's ass in that 70s show. That's definitely where I first saw him. And yeah, he's just great at playing complete assholes.
Okay, I'm going to bring up the commentary very quickly because we are talking about this. So to quote Ed Neumeyer, Kurtwood Smith is the nicest man in the world. He is so sweet, so respectful, and yet somehow, like many other guys like this, can play the most vicious bastard killer you can imagine.
Yes, what is it with that? Like, Clancy Brown seems like a really,
Ronnie
really
Cox.
nice... Yeah, like, it's not just, there are some actors where you go, oh, I don't know, they don't leave an impression on me, or they seem like they could be kind of arrogant or whatever. No, they're super nice. They go above just being, charismatic.
And you get some pieces of shit in Hollywood who somehow manage to have careers by being horrible people, and you get these really nice people who somehow managed to grab a career as being like some of the most evil people on screen, and they are delightful. Yeah, Clancy Brown is, because he's forever going to be the Kurgan.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I can't help it.
He auditioned to voice Superman in the animated series, and Andrea Romano's like, can you read for Lex Luthor? It's like, yeah,
Yes.
I anticipated this. Yeah, always gonna be the villain.
Yeah.
It's just something about that voice.
Yeah. He was also oh God, again, that's gush about Clancy. This is the Clancy Brown appreciation now.
Yeah.
He was also like the prison guard in Shawshank Redemption. Brilliant in that. However, the one good guy role that I remember him from, and this ties back neatly into RoboCop because he was in Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers as the drill instructor.
And yeah, he's great in that actually. And he's also Hank in Detroit Become Human, which is about a robot cop in Detroit, and he's he's lovable if you play it that way. Obviously, he can turn into a jerk if you're a jerk to him, but yeah. Which I do that all the time.
Yeah, I do need to finish Detroit Human.
Yeah, bitch, get on it.
I just killed the evil man, and I'm choosing to have the happy ending where the lovely robot lady goes to escape with a new lovely daughter, and they all live happily ever after.
Yes,
because they never have to play the game ever again.
Yes, actually, you know what? Just finish it there. Happily ever after, great. You know.
I get the happy ever after ending.
Yes.
And I don't have to see anything horrible happen to Lance Hendrickson because I knew that was going to happen eventually.
I mean, you could try to avoid it.
That turns into an argument about the agency of video games.
Yes. I noticed in this minute that I was gonna say the police, but that sounds weird because it's like, we know they're Murphy and Lewis, but it's just we need to give them like a conjoined name. I don't know, Lewis. Anyway,
Mulus.
Mulus, yeah.
Sounds like
Mulus,
a guy from an 80s
day off.
If only Murphy and Lewis had the day off.
Yes.
We wouldn't have a RoboCop.
Yeah, oh my god. If they had just, decided to just sit there and keep drinking their coffee, none of this would have happened. Murphy would have just gone home to his wife. There's no story, really. But, yeah, so I just noticed the absence of something is quite interesting, and it's a skill I have honed from doing the Movies by Minutes podcast of just, they don't have the sirens on when there's usually something there it's easy to notice.
Well, I think it's the idea that they were trying to sneak up on the truck. It's something that's actually commented upon in the novelization. I'm definitely going to get to the novelization. Oh boy, am I going to talk about the novelization.
Yeah, because I'm wondering what the choice was made, because they just never have the sirens on, which in real life it's police procedure, that's what they're supposed to do, and there's no one else on the street, which I feel like if you had more cars that would up the stakes and the tension, right?
Well, in the novelization, which we can only assume was based on the original script, Murphy's actually supposed to be a night shift cop, and it seems to be implied that this was happening at night. I can totally understand why they changed it to daylight when you get to the factory, because they needed light.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, that most cyberpunk movies, it's always, dark, drenched in neon. They'd certainly do that in RoboCop too, but this feels so out of place to me. It feels just uncinematic. Feels like it could be happening, which maybe that kind of plays into making it more realistic. I don't know.
In the book, Clarence actually has to go with Emil. We haven't even talked about the rest of the gang yet, but we'll get there. To basically step on it, and even Emil turns around and says, quote, "This crate ain't gonna outrun twin turbines." So that's the thing that they keep referring to. I'm not sure if it's in the original script, but you don't really talk about it in the thing. The cop cars are supposed to be these like powerful jet engine twin turbine like monster police cruisers that are supposed to like rocket out of the ramp and like jump and like go fast. So
yeah,
I think it's one of those things where like Lewis and Murphy are playing it cool because they do sneak up, and like that's the great gag in this. Like, they're sneaking up, they notice that they're there, everyone sets up the guns, and then Bobby kicks open the doors, everyone starts shooting, and then you turn back to the back view of the van and there's no car there.
Yeah,
great gag.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just like, can you not see that there's nothing there? They shoot 2, 3, 4 times. Nah.
But it's also a nice couple of beats before even Emil like starts checking the mirrors. The car just couldn't have disappeared. Well, unless it just took a turn off for some reason. Here's one thing I noticed is that Lewis had driven them to the I'm just going to use right and left instead of passenger and thing, because we've had a discussion off camera about car doors.
Yeah.
So the right-hand side of the van, which is Lewis's driver's side, and Murphy is on the other side, so he's technically got a lot of cover, but that still leaves Lewis kind of vulnerable.
Yeah. Boddicker should have been shooting at her.
One thing I did notice is that the cop car does get shot up a tree. If there's anything that's potentially armored, it's maybe the bodywork, but the windows seem to take a lot of abuse from the shotgun blasts.
So the police car is a 1986 Ford Taurus, and as you mentioned, there was the intention of creating these futuristic-looking cars. From what I can tell, Verhoeven just wasn't happy with the designs for it. It looked ridiculous. It didn't seem to fit in with his aesthetic, so went for something more real-world. And honestly, I think that was the best choice because the whole film feels more timeless and more... I don't know what it is.
Let's
like
say
grounded, I guess. Grounded, yeah. A word that's thrown around a lot, especially in genre of films, but I'll use it.
No, I think RoboCop is a fairly grounded film for being a high-concept sci-fi. You know, it's set in a modern-day setting, even though it's supposed to be in the future. It's grounded in what is essentially 1980s Americana. But RoboCop doesn't even himself look a bit out of place. He looks pretty much like a luxury car.
Somehow it fits into this world. RoboCop doesn't look ridiculous, even though he can't even walk properly. He's functionally disabled.
If it was like, say, a Borg going one end of the spectrum of ugly robot, and the other one would be, say, like a robot that would be like a Mass Effect game where it's all glistening and pointy edges, like a Transformer, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
This feels like a corporate production line concept of a robot cop.
Yeah, I think they probably were looking at vehicles for inspiration. He looks like a car man, but not Optimus Prime.
I mean, Transformers were a big thing before this movie got made, but that might have been something they looked at.
You made the Transformers reference before me. Whoa.
Mind blown!
Yeah.
Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
Ah, shit.
I got both of them in! Boom!
Yeah. The costumes are also pretty timeless. You know, they could have done some over-the-top future cop kind of outfit, but no, it's not really what cops were wearing at the time, but it looks practical. It looks like something you would see. And
speaking of cops' aesthetics, their helmets, they actually talk about this in the audio commentary, is that they used, we've talked about this previously, they've used a hockey design. The makers, when they're talking about it in the commentary, they couldn't think of it as hockey or other kind of sports helmets. But even Ed Neumeyer comments that modern-day policing, he didn't say this movie directly inspired that, but he's noticed that even modern-day policing has followed the aesthetic that they kind of started to set up.
Huh. I love that when fiction influences real-world technology or fashion or whatever.
It happens more often than you can imagine.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, that helmet, I don't know if we ever mentioned that on the pod, but yeah, it is the Tron helmet.
Yeah, because I told you the Tron connection.
Yep, love it. And then I shared that with the animatronic group for
oh, nice.
that podcast. Yeah. And they like that.
Just quickly going back to the car, you make a good point about the modern day aesthetics. There's almost little to no modification to the Taurus beyond, I think, the front grille. I think there was maybe some body modification, but not that extensive.
There's some headlights at the front and the lights. Yeah. Sirens.
Yeah. And it's also this matte grey car. And nobody, even, definitely not in modern day police, uses that colour. And I think that's also a funky kind of aesthetic that's just unique to this particular vehicle. Normally people colour their car matte with a matte finish regardless. But matte grey especially, that's RoboCop.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it is grey or black.
Believe in neutral light, it is a grey. It's a warm grey. To the internet we can find a photo. At least a lot of fans will paint their Tauruses as a grey.
Yeah, to me that looks black, but it just registers to the eye as being somewhere in that black grey spectrum. But it is, yeah, quintessentially RoboCop. And in the remake, they did also use Tauruses, obviously a more modern version, and they look sexy. They're just there's all this aggressive armor, but it's not overdone. I think that might be one of the nicest things that actually came out of the remake.
So I just googled the RoboCop car, and someone, at least this time last year, someone was selling a replica of the Taurus. It is grey, but the tagline is "You can't buy it for $1."
Fuck you. So while we're speaking of vehicles, the van actually gets its own wiki entry as well, and I love this.
I didn't check on the van.
Yeah, I'm just very interested in vehicles right now, so I'm looking at all of them.
I'll admit, my research went in a completely different direction this time round, but I'm really glad that you picked up the ball on this.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's teamwork makes the dream work. DreamWorks makes Shrek.
Which just got recently admitted into the National Film Archive.
Topical. So the van stood out to me because it just looks so brutal, and it looks like it could have been customized, but no, they've just stripped back the paint. There's no primer, there's nothing on it. And the wiki entry says, spacious, robust, and dodgy looking, the gang's 1968 Chevrolet step van features a brutally stripped down interior, no paint or primer, and sliding metal covers over the windows to keep out prying eyes and prying bullets. Emil seems to be charged with driving it, which he does rather well, until it really matters. The wiki's pretty fun, actually.
The gang is in a pretty, at least for a chase, in a pretty disadvantaged position. However, let's face it, if you're, a group of 5 people, hang on, just quick count, I think it's soon to be 5 people, aren't going to outrun a cruiser with 2 guys in it. Just weight ratio, especially when you've stolen a load of money. This isn't the Transporter.
It's amazing that the audacity that they would rob a bank in broad daylight. These absolute mad lads.
But this is also, like, who really wants to fuck with Clarence Boddicker? As probably as soon as the bank tellers saw this guy, whose face is literally all over the news at this point, they probably were going, yeah, look, we're just going to open the door, take what you want. No, you don't have to set up the explosives. You're just going to burn the money that way, and you're going to end up being shot in the legs, and then you're going to get thrown out of the vehicle. Trust us, we know this. And it's the scene in Austin Powers 3 where Michael Caine sees the guy without a name tag. It's like, you might as well just lie down now. Yeah, just do it.
We see in the background Reunion Tower, which I'm told is quite a prominent building in Dallas. So I guess if you're from Dallas, kind of broke the illusion a little bit.
Probably. This is the future. They could have moved it.
And I feel like I need to take advantage of this moment where Murphy is firing 2 guns. So I think we do need to put in a drop where from Hot Fuzz, where it's like, have you ever fired 2 guns while jumping in the air? No. Have you ever fired 1 gun while jumping in the air?
Have you ever fired your gun up in the air and gone, ah?
No, I have not ever fired my gun up in the air and gone, ah.
Oh god, Hot Fuzz, I have not seen that in a while, and that is a great film.
Yeah, nor have I, but it's a classic.
Okay, all the Cornetto trilogy are brilliant, but I think Hot Fuzz might be my favourite.
So the minute ends on Boddicker about to throw Bobby out of the vehicle, and I think, again, within the first minute or 2 of knowing this character, you get all the information you need about him, because some villains, they have a sense of honor, or they like to think they do, and so their crew is important to them, whereas, no, here we have a villain who very much sees his own men as disposable, which, yeah, makes sense.
Well, Bobby also committed the cardinal sin of fucking up.
Yep, exactly.
He is quite specifically the guy who blew up the doors of the bank and burnt the fucking money. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that differentiates, say, Clarence Boddicker from a lot of criminal elements is that he is always being framed not as necessarily as a criminal mastermind, but as a very smart guy. Like, at least this part of the movie, he's just doing random acts of violence. He's just robbing the shit out of stores. We get to see later on, spoilers, that he's using that to fuel essentially a criminal empire that's looking poised to take over all the crime in Detroit, especially because he has Dick Jones behind him. One of the reasons why they gave him these glasses was to give him a look of intellectualism. However, Verhoeven actually talks about this in the commentary, giving Boddicker the glasses is a nod for him to look like Heinrich Himmler, leader of the SS.
I can see that.
To which Ed also retorts, this is before we knew Paul's obsession with Nazi Germany.
But yeah, I remember watching. You just reminded me of this. I remember watching RoboCop for the first time when I was probably 14 or so.
Good age.
Yeah, I think that's the right time. I think I watched Alien for the first time around that age as well, and I looked at him and went, he's not what I would expect for the main bad guy. He's kind of got this nerdy dad look. But the costume kind of makes him look more like a cyberpunk character. But yeah, I like that he isn't what you would expect. That's what real life is like. People just look like anything.
So my brain went to a picture of Murphy and Lewis, and Murphy going, "Are we the bad guys?"
Yeah.
Which is very much a commentary on the modern day defund the police movement. But this is also back in the day when you could have good guy cops that weren't, you couldn't take that much of a critical eye to, because they were clearly the underdog. At least in this situation. Before we move on to gaslighting, because I think we both really want to talk about, not necessarily talking about the movie, but the implications of the movie.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I think, we got more to say about the remake.
There is this moment in the novelization I have to talk about, because this is the prime time we're talking about the gang. Remember I say about, I've brought it up a few times, that I think this book is a little bit cynical. The writing, at least, is cynical. I have to describe to our lovely viewers how this author describes these characters. Leon, a tall shambling man, sat with his knees tucked up under his chin. Joe, a tough young black with an attitude problem, glaring at his feet. Chan in the movie, his name is Min. So, same character. Chan, a Hong Kong-born patsy whose face looked like a computer course in nervous twitching, tried not to show fear. Barrel-chested Bobby and clean-cut Doggy glanced at each other. It gets worse. A bit later on, Bobby, whose IQ approximated his belt size. It gets even worse, because I'm trying to find the one that made me just go, whoa, shit. So how he describes Boddicker. How did he, a man of such savvy, such intelligence, hook up with such an enclave of lowlifes? This was the price one had to pay to be a master thief. I'm glad I got some of my dramatic reading out of the way. But yeah, when I read the description of Bobby, I was just like, the fuck?
Well, you gotta fill them pages with something. May as well use it for unnecessary backstory.
Yeah, it's just like, where did this come from? I was genuinely shocked, because here we are. The back seat of the van burst open, and the screaming form of one Bobby Martin, street punk, assassin, drug dealer, and rapist, was tossed out towards the street by his former accomplices.
Well, I guess we don't feel so bad for him now.
Well, yes. I guess, yes. None of this is in the movie, by the way. Wow.
Yeah.
And thus spake Ed Nahar. I've been sitting on that for a while.
So, shall we get to gaslighting RoboCop?
Alex, how do you feel?
I feel fine, Dr. Norton.
Yeah, the drop's already played.
Yeah. This minute begins with Raymond saying they feel no anger, they feel no prejudice, and ends with Jay Baruchel saying every second this law is in effect, we are hemorrhaging money. And speaking of prejudice, the lawyer Liz Klein is played by Jennifer Ely, Elizabeth Bennet from The Best Pride and Prejudice.
I don't watch Pride and I should get around to watching Pride and Prejudice.
It's great. I'm not normally into that kind of thing. If I'm reading something from the 19th century, it better be gothic horror or nothing. But friend of mine got me into Pride and Prejudice, and specifically the BBC production from the 90s, the one with Colin Farrell. Always getting confused. Firth? Yeah, Colin Farrell.
I think I would love to see Colin Farrell do a Pride and Prejudice, but I want to see Colin Farrell dressed up as Bloodshot. Fuck me. Bullseye.
I confuse Clive Barker with Clive Palmer. I confuse Bruce Boxleitner with Bruce Campbell. Not that I confuse those people. My mouth says the wrong one.
No, I just think Clive Barker and his army of Cinnabites is probably more positive than Clive Palmer will ever be.
I was thinking the same thing every time I made that mistake. They're both raising hell, technically.
And I'd love to see a movie with Bruce Boxleitner and Bruce Campbell together.
Yes.
And throwing Kurt Russell too. That would be magnificent.
Yeah, my Magnificent Seven with a bunch of B-grade old guys. Hell yeah. Jeffrey Combs. Who else would be in that lineup?
Yeah.
Clancy Brown's and everything, so yeah.
Ted Raimi. You have to have Ted Raimi because he'd be the sidekick offsider.
No, he's going to be one of the monsters, I think. Or the villains, or something like that. You know, some weirdo character.
Sam Raimi, get onto this.
Yes.
So my one line for RoboCop is, God damn it, evil Bruce Wayne is more rational than the good Senator McRobot hater. I think rational is not the right word. I don't know what else to describe it. Rational is the only thing that comes to mind.
Well, this scene really fascinated me because I'm a big fan of studying public speaking, charisma, social skills, all of that, and there's a lot going on just this minute here. And
I was honestly expecting you to say robots, and I would have gone, really? I hadn't have thought of that.
There is that, but I didn't need to say it. It's just a given. But Dreyfus he's doing what every politician does, and he relies on logical fallacies. I love analyzing them and picking them out in an argument. The logical fallacy here, and this is a very popular one for politicians, is appeal to emotion.
Yeah.
His argument is absolutely hollow. He focuses only on what AI can feel, as if this had any bearing on a machine's ability to do its job.
So this exact moment, in hindsight, is the moment for me when I hated this film. Because the entire argument of this entire film comes down to this courtroom scene, and it makes no fucking sense.
But I think it could have.
The entire premise of this film is, why do we need a guy in a tin suit? Is because robots don't have feelings. What the shit? Oh, okay, I should say, okay, I can grok that premise. But this is a literal multinational, probably $1 trillion company, because I'll get to that in a tick, who literally dominate the entire world except America.
Yes.
And you just know, you just fucking know, across the old Santa like that, would happily throw robots at the public if he saw enough fucking dollar signs. Fuck this movie.
Yeah, I think it's not realistic to imagine that robots wouldn't be a thing that would just explode across America. That's okay, but let's say that is the case.
But what if a robot shoots a child? But cops shoot children!
Yeah, exactly. The argument's totally invalid. So Raymond, he doesn't answer this question directly. Instead, he focuses on what AI can't feel. Anger, prejudice, fatigue. His response is valid, and then Dreyfus grills him further, and Sellers finally concedes that no, robots don't have feelings. Dreyfus acts like, boom, mic drop, gotcha, bitch.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yes.
Ugh.
And he's proved absolutely nothing. The audience applauds.
Yeah, I know.
This is something we witness in real life all the time, and I think we can take a lesson from this, because people don't focus on what is being said, but rather how it is being said. And not to mention, we carry with us our preconceived notions of certain people and the power dynamics. I mean, here you've got a senator and the CEO of this multi-billion-dollar corporation. So, it's like, who am I really siding with here?
This movie only gets worse with hindsight.
Yeah, Dreyfus only seems to have won primarily due to how he's speaking and behaving. He's acting like, well, I mean, he does hold the highest authority in the room, and he acts like he's won. But I think what Raymond could have done, and this is the thing, arguments are less about being right and more about being the most persuasive. So I think, I mean, Michael Keaton's a charismatic guy, and he kind of, well, he tries, but he could have played the character as more charismatic. So Raymond could have said something like, to win Dreyfus over, saying, well, I understand why you feel that way. Or maybe you can ask the person, if you are in this kind of situation, well, why do you feel that way? You have to force that other person to stop and think and explain it. Whereas, here Raymond just goes, oh, well, I guess you're right. Robots don't have feelings.
The only reason he doesn't is because the script tells him to. He doesn't. I found in this minute I had the most sympathy for the billionaire.
Yeah.
Fuck.
What a situation we're in here. But,
Fucking hell. No, it's just, that's the thing. It's like, this movie could, there's so much potential.
Yes, so right here, what I would do is he realizes in this moment, this should not be the crux of the argument for the rest of the film. No.
Yeah.
What this should be is like a turning point for Raymond as a character, where he goes, okay, I have created something that I genuinely believe is good, and that is safer than human cops, but the American public won't buy it. Okay, so I'm just going to have to go with what they want, and I'm going to make this abomination, this cyborg, this half human, half machine, because you wanted machines with feelings. Here you go. Do you like it? Do you want this?
Yeah. Oh, man. This movie takes so many wrong turns in even simple critique or satire. Like, what made the first one great?
Yeah, I mean, what I've just said here, it wouldn't have taken that much.
Is a better RoboCop movie.
Exactly. That would have been maybe a few lines of dialogue, a bit of a rewrite, and then you make Raymond a more complex character. In the film, he is very much just your typical, I'm evil because I'm rich, screw the rules, I have money. No. Whereas I think it would have been interesting if he was more enigmatic and, much like some other famous billionaires, tech CEOs and what have you, not very...
Oh, I'll get to that.
...charismatic and not good at this kind of public speaking thing, but he genuinely believes, human police and human soldiers, unpredictable, dangerous, so let's make the machines. So far, so good. But, well, the American public doesn't want it, therefore I feel like making a robot cop, a cyborg man, if you will, is my only option. And that makes it just more compelling and interesting and fun.
Well, the one bit of critique regarding Raymond Sellers is, we've brought this up, he's Steve Jobs.
Exactly, yeah.
So he's just flat out Steve Jobs. They basically went, we're going to use this as a critique of Apple, the company, and Apple, the product identity. When this movie was released, it was 2014. Steve Jobs died in 2011.
Really?
I'll bring this up in a bit. Why? Yes.
What?
Yes. They had an idea. It is a critique about the iPhone. Problem is, there's a bit of a distinct difference between, hey, we're going to critique American hyper-consumerism. Okay, that's a good critique, but not really a good subject for RoboCop.
Yeah.
Especially when they're trying to shoehorn this thing of like, oh, it's because an American public will not accept a cop that doesn't have a feeling. No.
I mean, the real argument here should be, and so in this scene, that you had the potential to make the Raymond character directed back on course, where he goes, the argument here really shouldn't be about emotions, it's about giving deadly power to a non-living entity, and having that argument. And, well, frankly, I personally think giving deadly force to a human being is scarier, and that's the frustrating thing. And we come back to this over and over again, that there was a lot of topical stuff here, police brutality in the 21st century and all of that sort of stuff, and that AI is almost here now to the point that it could do this sort of stuff. Oh god, there's so much that could have been said.
The movie literally touches upon the US military's usage of drone warfare in the Middle East. That is literal text.
Did Michael Bay produce this? Like, oh, we're always gonna have military presence in every movie.
Oh god, either Michael Bay or Zack Snyder can be pretty pro-military. No, this isn't dark and edgy enough.
I'm amazed that the main character in the Transformers movies wasn't Josh Duhamel, because he's a soldier man, and Michael Bay loves his soldier men.
That actually kind of would have made more sense than Sam Witwicky, but also at the same time, yeah, Sam Witwicky.
Wickety wiki. Yeah, I would have preferred.
Watch the Lindsay Ellis whole plate stuff. You really want to dig deep into
Hell
why
yeah.
Sam Witwicky.
Yeah, I liked Lennox. Lennox should have just been the main character, frankly. And, obviously, Michaela. Hell yeah.
Yeah. See, I would have actually gone the opposite way in this movie, and at least start off by making Raymond Sellers the protagonist, or at least a sympathetic character. He is a guy who just wants to help the world be a safer place. Give him the Tony Stark arc from Age of Ultron.
Yes.
He's a guy trying to protect the world, and maybe that's when we find the ulterior motive. Again, like the Dick Jones turn in... Jesus fucking Christ, I can't even get the Dick Jones turn fucking right. So I just... Because I've been editing these, the amount of times I just have exasperated gasps when we're talking about this movie, and I leave them in because I really want the audience to know
feel it.
This is fucking painful.
Yeah, so you make a good point there. So even though having the billionaire CEO as a protagonist isn't exactly ideal or relatable, but I think that is actually quite interesting if you frame it from the perspective of you've got a lot of these technology corporations and all that who have these innovative ideas, but it tends to be the politicians who are slower to change policies, to embrace the change. And so you could have a very interesting argument here. And then you have maybe some Frankenstein allegories in there, because I love me some Frankenstein. And then, the whole Robocop project has some unintended consequences.
Yeah. I mean, what if you do subvert the whole idea? Go back to the original movie. The whole point is that they wipe Murphy's memories, because they don't need Murphy to be a Robocop. They need their product to be a policeman.
Yeah.
They just need the one component that's missing, for lack of a better term. Okay, so I don't think A209 is an AI, but they need the equivalent of an AI to pilot the Robocop suit. And a human brain is essentially loaded all that stuff up, yet also has its own directives. It's about a corporation stripping the humanity from a person to turn him into a product. Yeah. That is still a brilliant concept, even in 2014, especially if you want to tackle hyper-consumerism. Fuckheads.
I don't have a problem with the remake having this, struggle or conflict being between politics and corporations, because in the original RoboCop there was none of that. Politics didn't even seem to exist. There was no government. It seemed like Omnicorp was the only ruling body in Detroit at that point.
Well, there is hints at the mayoral conflict in the media break sections, if I remember correctly. But yeah, the mayor actually doesn't become a part, or at least local politics doesn't become part of the RoboCop universe until RoboCop 2, where it is more focused as a direct conflict between the mayor and OCP. And that's the other thing that gets weird, is like, OCP. It's always OCP in the original movies. It's OCP, OCP, OCP. This movie, they go, haha, we're going to call it Omnicorp and keep the same logo.
Yeah.
Bit of trivia. I think in the original script, they do refer to Omni-Consumer Products as Omnicorp as well, so I think that's something they just lifted.
I think, I mean, I didn't even notice it was different. I mean, I knew the wording different. It's essentially the same thing.
Even on the nameplates in front of Sellers and the other person next to him, you did mention the name, but I'm blanking. It does say Omnicorp's.
Liz.
Yeah, Liz something.
Yeah. Where is it? Oh, Liz Klein. Yeah, it was in my notes.
Unless you've got anything else, I do have a little bit of a mini rant I want to go on.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that every time we analyze this movie and we come up with some very easy fixes for certain things, or
I know.
It makes us think of all the potential avenues it could have gone down. It just makes me wonder, why do we keep getting movies that are so uninspired? You know, I actually don't have a problem with remakes and reboot makeables, if you will.
Everyone should know my stance on that by now, but please go on.
You know, as long as there is genuine intention to do something with it, there is a reverence for the source material. I mentioned Tron Legacy, I mentioned Blade Runner 2049 all the time. These are clearly made with love and an intention to build upon what has come before and to speak to relevant issues. It doesn't cost a production company any more money to make a quality product. It's not making it more alienating or challenging or anything like that.
Yeah, well, sequels had a bad rap for the longest time because the whole idea of a sequel was often shit it out as fast as possible and to make money. And that's how we got to RoboCop 2.
Yeah.
Or worse, that's how we got RoboCop 3, a movie they deliberately turned into a PG film directed at kids. And that essentially became the standard for RoboCop for at least the next decade, until it basically died a slow death.
I think, well, it's a shame that I don't drink, because I feel like we should just get drunk and then review RoboCop 3 one day.
I do have half a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label. I'm just cupping it in my hands and just thinking about it.
Just get me sleep deprived and I go silly. You know, it could be great.
I wanted to bring this up. This is my second note, and probably the most amount of notes I've ever made on RoboCop gaslighting, because I wanted to piggyback on something I talked about, was it 2 minutes ago, where I went, $5 million, how quaint.
Yeah.
So there's a bit towards the end of this minute where that guy you said the name of, and I'm terrible with names, saying about...
Jay Baruchel.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
My apologies to the actor. I bet you're good. I don't know. I get to about the halfway through one of these minutes and I switch off, but this caught my attention. So as I mentioned before, the global security portion of Omnicorp literally dominates the entire world, bar America. This is quite specific in the graphic in this movie. What's his face turns around and says that the expected total annual worth of Omnicorp after they get America is $600 billion. That got me thinking. They don't actually say how much the corporation is worth at that point. They also don't say how much they're losing, except to saying that they're losing money daily by not being able to take over America. Which makes zero sense, because when you literally policing every other country in the world, unless America is literally 51% of... Oh, fuck.
I don't understand how they're hemorrhaging money. Like, what?
If 51% of all global crime is in America, why aren't the American government just fucking screaming at Omnicorp to get them on board? Okay, no global mega corporations should be suffering a monetary loss when they literally dominate 99% of the fucking world on a thing.
What are they doing?
So here's the funny thing. This is supposed to be set sometime in the future. It's supposed to be about, if I remember correctly, it said in the previous, about 2030, 2040.
Yeah.
Something roughly around about that. Here's the thing. In the year of our Lord, RoboCop, 2020, one person is worth $184.8 billion by themselves. His name is Jeff Bezos. He is worth by himself, not Amazon, which is the CEO and all that, not Amazon. Bezos himself is worth a third of Omnicorp in the movie.
Huh?
That's a bit quaint.
Yeah.
However, let's give the benefit of the doubt that this mega corporation being worth about 3 times more than the richest person in the world in 2020. This was made 6 years ago. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Because we've always said, Raymond Sellers is based off a real-life person, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, at the time of his death, was worth $10 billion. Who do you think was worth 3 times that much in 2014? I can tell you, Jeff Bezos. Someone who, after Steve Jobs had made $10 billion, which is a ridiculous amount of money.
What does he do with it? Does he just like sit on top of it like Smaug? I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah. There's no such thing as an ethical billionaire. So, yes, Bezos was worth 3 times the amount of Steve Jobs while this movie was being made. And, oh god, that guy who's worth $10 billion, Jesus, he's a bit of an evil bastard, isn't he? Yes, of course, no one could predict 2020, and Bezos himself has earned more money this year alone.
And God.
Primarily because the pandemic has caused an increase in online sales, and also because he's fired a shitload of his staff and cut down the wages on the rest. Again, fuck, there's things you could use in a movie like this, and it just fucking doesn't. So I was expecting you to go a bit more into the robot talk. I'm glad you did, where you went, but wow.
I have many facets. I am not just the robot guy. You know, I have other things.
Oh no, I just thought it'd be a really cool in-depth discussion about, well no, actually, Mr. Senator, robots do have emotions. You prick.
Yeah, how dare you?
How dare you shame me in my robot lifestyle?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's ableist? I don't know these days.
Robolist? I did like calling him Senator McRobot Hater. And I think I'm just going to keep referring to Sellers as the evil Bruce Wayne, because, again, there are no ethical billionaires. That's me spent.
Yeah, I think we're done. I got it all out of my system.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't say I've been pent up, like, because I did enjoy the rest of the talk in this minute, but
Yeah, I wonder if maybe we should release a bonus episode, which is just our Knight Rider talk, because we did that. That was our warm up for half an hour.
Oh, I might have to, just so I don't have to cut all this out and this out and this out. Oh my god, let's stop.
I like your Universal Studios story anyway, so we should definitely release that.
Yeah, that would be a lovely little bonus, or maybe a Patreon exclusive.
Ooh.
Nah, that's too much effort. I don't mind releasing a bit of bonus content.
Yeah.
So where can the lovely viewers find you?
You can find me on traviandesigns.com, TRAVAN, Alien Prequels by Minute on Facebook, and also patreon.com/TravianDesigns, where you can find advanced episodes of Tron Legacy, Alien Covenant, and
every other minute podcast out there that you do.
Every other podcast, yeah. And then there's Animatronic, which is the Tron Uprising podcast I do with Duncan Shields of Chronologically Speaking.
Awesome. Please follow me, not on Fanboy Crossing, but on Fandom Crossing, where I also release Kung Pao Enter the Minutes. I'm hoping to start doing more video essays. I've got vlogs, I've got build videos, I talk shit about Spider-Man video games. There's a lot of stuff there. I've got over 100 videos. You're bound to find something, but more importantly, please check us out at Simplecast, Apple, Google, Spotify, and YouTube. Like, click, share, subscribe, bells, comments, racketer,
Smash
all that cool,
like
funky
button.
stuff.
Slap that subscribe button. Just do all the buttons.
Ring that little bell, and
Ring my little bell. What?
both the ladies and the gentlemen's. I think we're about done, so thanks very much, everyone.
Robocock.